just see the difference in the flowers. In a way, actually.
That's how I know about Korea. But like, I just think that I think Mandarin is actually a lot more easier because the grammar of Mandarin is very hard. Yeah. It's like the exact opposite of like how possibly Koreans learn English because they're focused so much on reading and writing work. And then they can read and write English. Yeah, exactly. And then I'm strategy because it's like it's kind of common sense thing that like because like certain sports like so think about it, don't think about the fact that like and that's how you hear like such a what's